Hello everyone, SirMonkeySuit Azabi here, back again with Kuroko no Basket Season 2. We are on episode 22, and in the last episode we continue our match with Yosen, which has already reached the second half. So the start of the third quarter started at the very end of last episode, and yeah, I mean that was a very fast turnover for the first half, and I think it was done on purpose. The reason for this is because with obviously the defensive nature of Yosen, there would have been a lot of time, like a lot of dead time, where the ball's being passed around the Syrian players trying to break through and unable to. So I think instead of just beating home the idea that Yosen are very defensive and very good at it, which we know, I think it was just a case of they just kind of sped through it and only showed the bits that were important going into the second half, which is where Syrian will start to, you know, actually put some pressure onto Yosen and actually start getting some points. You know, so yeah, at the very end of last episode, it was obviously Kagami on Tatsuya and also Kiyoshi on Murasaki Bara as well. You know, so yeah, we're going to see a lot more of Tatsuya in the second half. We basically saw nothing of him in the first half of this game, so now it's time for that to be you know, showcased. So yeah, that's definitely going to be interesting. And obviously with Kiyoshi on Murasaki Bara, on the surface seems like it's very fucking, you know, mismatched. I mean, not to a really extensive degree, because if there's anybody on the court that's really going to go one-on-one with him aside from Kagami, it is going to be Kiyoshi. And the fact that he has this Vice Claw now, which basically allows him to further outstretch opponents that are either taller than him or, you know, at the same height as him, which Murasaki Bara is, I believe, but not by much, because Kiyoshi is very tall as well. And, you know, like I was talking about in the last episode in the discussion, is that having just to jump up with one hand and catch the ball with one hand allows him to outstretch people who are taller. So I imagine that's what we're going to be seeing with Kiyoshi. And if he's able to really go, like, you know what I mean, like toe-to-toe with Murasaki Bara, that would be really, really cool to witness. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. We also saw Kuroko actually shoot and score twice, I believe. Maybe in a third time, but I think it was only twice. But either you know, even so, the fact that he's able to actually pull this out now is huge. You know what I mean? We've already seen why that is, because obviously people would get used to it and just hold back because he would never shoot. Now that he's shooting, it's pulling people out the opposing position. Fuck's sake, the opposing players out of position. You know what I mean? Because they're now actually scared of him, which is really cool. And obviously his form is more of a passing. He palms it into the air as opposed to, you know, fingertips. So yeah, really, really cool. And yeah, I believe Kuroko is on the bench as of right now as well. So, you know, I'm sure he'll come in again at some point. But until then, we'll have to wait and see. So yeah, I don't think there's anything else to really talk about. So yes, if you do want to get access to the reaction, link is in the description below. There's also a link to the full length if you want to watch this episode in full and not just the 10-minute cut version, then the offer is there for you. But yeah, nothing else to really talk about. So we're going to get in episode 22, see what we get. So without further ado, let's go. Okay, episode 22, the match continues. And for the next episode, we're going to be having Murasaki Bara on offense. That's going to be tough. That is really going to be tough. They had to change it up anyway, because I felt for this episode, Yosen were quite bad. Like, I mean, I'm strictly talking about the other members and not Murasaki Bara or Tatsuya. Specifically the ones that were supposed to be marking Kiyoshi, because they kept letting their mark go. Like, they were on him when they had the ball, but as soon as, like, when he had the ball, but as soon as the ball was passed off to, like, Izuki, where were they? Like, they were nowhere to be seen. Like, what were they doing? You know what I mean? It's like they were just hanging around. So I feel like they were those players in particular were just not in the game. Really at all. I guess the one sign, or the one thing that they actually did that was, you know, considerable, was applying so much pressure to Kiyoshi. That Kiyoshi is basically in a state now where he's kind of unable to... I feel like he's not going to be able to basically defend against Murasaki Bara. I don't think he's going to have the energy to, which basically sucks, because now that basically puts... realistically, I don't think that Kiyoshi should be able to really... Like, it's possible he could really sort of outdo himself and go... Like, basically give everything that he has left to this match. Just to stop Murasaki Bara from scoring a couple. But realistically, I don't know how much more he can really do, because he was literally about to... he was about to faint. Like, he was about to literally fall on his face. So if he was to come off, Kuroko would be the one to come on. And at that point in time, Mitobe is not going to be able to take on Murasaki Bara. He's able to, you know, he did have a really good moment in this episode, though, where he was actually keeping Murasaki Bara back, using his strength. But if he was to defend against him, I just don't think he'll be able to do it at all. So the only person that on Seirin that could actually stop him from doing so would be Kagami. But then you run the risk of him doing everything again, and it's like he's on defense, he's on offense, he's on defense. You know what I mean? And then you're running Kagami ragged. And not to mention, like, if the marks change so that Kagami has to be on Murasaki Bara, then there's no one on Tatsuya either. So it's one of those things where, I mean, I guess we could have a case of where Kuroko goes on Tatsuya, though. That could happen, I suppose. And Kuroko's been off for quite a while now. So him coming back in, his misdirection will have refilled. The effectiveness will have refilled. So maybe that would be what would happen. Either way, I don't see Kiyoshi seeing out the rest of this match. I just think he's too knackered. He's too fucked. You know, he's been playing two positions, which, you know, I guess we'll get into that. Like, I love the fact that in order to change the style to go up against someone else, the fact that he's able to just chop and change at will, you know what I mean, to be from the inside back to the outside, it's just it was a perfect game plan, really. Because, you know, when I was talking about, you know, Yosen kind of being rather bad this episode, equally, like, you had Seirin that would just practically toying with him on offense. Like, the stuff that they were just pulling out of the bag was just like they were puppeteering like, Yosen's players all the way. You know what I mean? Forcing Murasaki Bara out. Just really, really cool. So yeah, Kiyoshi proper MVP for this episode, definitely. Izuki as well. Izuki was doing real bits this episode, because obviously he was basically the sort of crutch between, you know, because it's almost like Izuki had to come out of his position to kind of like on the wings, on like the sides of the court, so that, you know, basically give Kiyoshi an option to pass to, because obviously Izuki's the point guard. So in a way, he kind of became he went into a different position every time Kiyoshi came back to the point guard role, you know what I mean, which opened him up. So he was like sort of playing that in between role, you know. And I tell you what, that pass that was like a backwards pass, that was sick. Yeah, and I mean that was one of the things that I was going to say in the reaction, but I didn't actually get a chance to say it because they were talking. I didn't want to interrupt. But like, even if it was a case of Kiyoshi having to come off, I feel like he's beaten Murasaki Bara. Like, he's dunked over the top of him. You know what I mean? He was the one that got under his skin, forced him out of his position all the time. You know what I mean? It was basically down to him that he was able to get one on Murasaki Bara. You know what I mean? So even if he was to come off, I feel like in terms of that one-on-one situation, he's completely outdid him. And that was completely different to what I was talking about, like, before this episode, in the pre-discussion and the post-discussion for the last episode as well. Like, I was talking about how having Kiyoshi on Murasaki Bara, I feel like on a one-on-one is a mismatch, because obviously Kiyoshi's going up against a Generation of Miracles. He's going up against a GOM, and you know what I mean? The one thing I did have which actually did come off actually was the the fact that Kiyoshi is tall and he only has to outstretch with one arm, which gives him extra height. And he used that with his vice claw to get over the top of Murasaki Para and he just completely outdid him in this episode. You know what I mean? It was something I wasn't expecting, but damn. I mean, the only obviously crutch of that is that Murasaki Bara isn't really taking it seriously. Well, he is now. He is at the end of this episode. But during the whole episode, like, from the start of the match to this moment, Murasaki Bara has just been kind of just letting things happen, and he hasn't been going and taking it seriously. So now it's going to be tough. It's happened with every JOM previously, where you know what I mean. You see them be able to do their they do their thing for whatever, however long it may be in the match. If it's the first half of the match, we see them, and you know what I mean. They're really fucking hard to play against, but Serene do come back and they start to pose a threat again, and then all of a sudden the GOMs like start to get serious and they up their game, and that's what ends up happening. So now it's going to be tough. Now it's really going to be tough. Kiyoshi's already knackered. I don't know how much more he can do, but if there is something that can be done, I would probably say that it would be Kiyoshi to come off, Kuroko to come on. Kuroko marks Tatsuya with his refilled misdirection. I think you'll be able to put him off. Because that's what Kuroko does best. Comes out of nowhere. So I think Tatsuya will struggle with Kuroko as his mark. And then put Kagami on Murasaki Bara. That's what I think is going to happen. Because that's the one thing I feel like they did sort of tease, I suppose, towards the end of this episode, where Kagami was like, there's no choice in this. I'm no ace if I can't take him on. So he tried to take him on, try to do something with his left hand. And it's making me wonder, is it a case of like his ball control in his left hand still isn't perfect? Like it still isn't all that great, I don't think it was hesitation. And I don't know if they'll bring it back up of what he was trying to do. Thing is, immediately after that, I went to a scene where it was these red particles, and I was like, fuck. I was in anticipation, because I was like, is he like reaching zone status? Like, is he getting to that point? I don't fucking know. It would be cool, but as I've said previously, like, I know that even though I would love to see them like in the zone as much as possible, it is that thing of like, the more they use it, the more like the less impressive, I guess, it becomes. And I said previously, I don't know if I really want the zone every game now, just because it's become a new thing. You know what I mean? Because then it just loses its effectiveness, and really, like, how much more can you get? Like, how much better can you get than the zone? You know what I mean? Like, that is like pure 120% shit. So to do that like every game would just be, I feel like, a bit of overkill. So I don't really know if that is something that is going to happen. But we'll see. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't even think Tatsuya is a zone guy. Like, I don't even think he could even hit the zone. You know what I mean? I know that they obviously put that sort of, Tatsuya is possibly on the level of a GOM and everything like that, but I don't know. There's something that tells me that it's just not the same. Like, the level of sort of potential of that one visual of Kagami, like, forcing the door open to the Generation of Miracles room, I just don't see Tatsuya as that. And I think it's more about potential. The fact that, like, he was talking about how, and this is a very, like, sort of arrogant and almost like, I don't know, like, bullyish thing to say in a way, or like very like what's the word? Like I just feel like it was very like now I'm looking at it from when they met at the start, and it was like, I don't know. Tatsuya's a bit of a dick. You know what I mean? Like, he had this like high and mighty status almost as a kid. So therefore that was the reason why he was fine being Kagami's brother, because he didn't have to worry about him being as good as at basketball than him. But as soon as Kagami started getting like on his level, all of a sudden like that, it's just like he completely dusted that aside. And I don't know, I just feel like that's just not a it's not a good trait for him. This idea that it's like it completely disregards everything that, like, you know what I mean? Kagami was the only one that even saw a brother in that relationship, clearly, because Tatsuya was looking at it because, you know what I mean, like, you're only my brother because you're not on my level. And it's like a very arrogant, like, spiteful. There's something about it that's just that doesn't ring right. It doesn't ring right with me at all. Like, I don't get it at all, because that's not. I know that would like to think that it's, oh my god, it's you know, it's anime and it's dramatic and it's like, you know what I mean, but like the it tries to be written as a way of like, oh yeah, I understand why, but really I don't. I don't. Like, you don't just toss away something like that is like, I don't know. It's like, it's the one thing, like, I suppose, out of this show that I struggle with a lot, because it doesn't really it doesn't make sense to me. How you can just be like, I don't know, I don't get it. Like, a familial bond is not something that is just like, you know what I mean, like, tossed away for, you know, because I want to crush you in basketball. You know what I mean? I don't, you know what I mean? It's like one of those things that, like, I don't really think it's from the writing perspective. I mean, it depends on how the mangaka wrote it. If he wrote it as, like, we're supposed to try, like, be able to understand Tatsuya, then from that, if that is the case, then I don't get it. I don't get why he thinks that way. But if it's being written as you're supposed to take, like, you're supposed to not understand it and really question why Tatsuya's like this, then obviously I feel like the writing is right then in that regard, and that's the way that it's supposed to be. You know what I mean? But, like, I think that's one of the things that comes with anime a lot, is because obviously you get, in anime, there's a hell of a lot more exposition than there is in, like, you know, live action stories or anything like that. So a lot of the time in anime, it can come across as like, it can come across to some people like it's like it can almost undermine the intelligence of the viewer watching it, you know what I mean, to some people. I'm not saying that that's what this is doing, but it could be taken as that way, because, you know, like, a lot of the time, like, because of the over exposition, it's like, well, yeah, I saw it happen, you don't need to explain it, kind of thing, right? So that can happen a lot of the time in anime, and it's kind of like a meme, you know, in anime, that, you know, it's over, you know, the over exposition is it can happen a lot, especially in shonen anime anyway. But also, like, a side product of that exposition is that, you know, it can come off as like trying to explain to you why this is why you need to understand this character, you know what I mean, as opposed to like making your own mind up about a character. It can, like, really it's like it's almost trying to sell you this character, why you should understand them. You know, so it is one of those things of like a toss-up, because obviously I don't know the writers, the mangaka's sort of intention with it, because it's the one thing in this show that I can't understand is why somebody is that way inclined. You know, like, I mean, if it is just as simple as, like, because the only way I can take it is that he's a dick and he wants to stay on top, like, and that's the only thing that matters to him, you know. So, you know, but like, I think it may be sort of a culture difference as well. Like, it's not as, I feel like, you know, where I'm from, it's more like, you know, you don't just toss aside a relationship like that for something that is trivial. But because, you know, because it's anime and it has to sort of dramatize it, I suppose, in a bit, and I suppose give you a reason as to why you want to see this guy as your enemy, with him being on the opposing team. That's that. But it makes me wonder, like, how it's gonna pay off in a way, you know what I mean? Because what I'm looking for really is, like, I don't know if I would be happy at the end of this match if Tatsuya and Kagami just, like, regained that brotherhood. Like, I don't know if I would be happy with that at this point now. Everything that I know of. Because then it would just seem like it was... basically, what you've done is... Because at that point, if that was the case, then all you've really done is given Kagami, like, almost a traumatic experience. For the sake of what? You know what I mean? Like, I don't even think it's as simple as just, like, wanting you know what I mean, like a true fight to see who is actually on top. Because it's like, if you're really that close, you don't use somebody like that. You know what I mean? And I think that's what I'm getting at, is that, like, it seems as though Tatsuya was really just using Kagami, essentially. That's exactly how it seems. So I think he's a bit of a dick. And even, like, the way that he was talking to Alex as well, like, you know what I mean? Like, stop treating me like a kid. I'm better than you now. Almost like just tossing it away is almost like it's like, have a bit of respect. You know what I mean? For, like, you know what I mean? Because the way that he's, yeah, I've gone in on him a lot. You know what I mean? But I'm just trying to get my thought process across to, you know, to you lot, so that you can understand, like, where I'm coming from in terms of how I feel about him. But that's the thing. It's like, I'll come back to it after the match and see how the payoff is. Because, like I said, I don't think I would feel right if it just went back to the brotherhood thing. I don't think that would work. You know. So we'll just have to wait and see on that regard. But yeah. Other than that, yeah, I don't know. I think that's pretty much it. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover in that episode. So, yeah, we'll have to see if it's time for Kuroko to come on in place of Kiyoshi. You know, I don't know if Kiyoshi's going to come off immediately in the next episode, but it might be like a, you know, like, because we're not even at the end of the third quarter yet, are we? So, you know what I mean? Maybe he'll come on for the fourth. You know what I mean? And then just have that entire quarter for Kuroko to do his thing. You know what I mean? If his misdirection's completely refilled, then, you know, he can basically go all out in the last quarter. So yeah, we'll see how that turns out. But that's pretty much all I've got. So thank you for watching. Of course, episode 23 will be out the same time as this. But if you want to gain access to episode 24 and 25 right now, you can do by becoming an early access tier patron over on my Patreon. It's $5 a month, gives you access to shows a week early. There's also the full-length tier, if you want to watch any of my reactions in full, not just the cut 10-minute versions. And then there's the exclusive tier, which gives you access to movie reactions and things like that. So if you want to watch my reactions to movies, that's the tier for you. So yeah, that's all I've got. So thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.